Hi, everybody. I'm a Padre, Harry Schlitt. I've been a priest for almost 60 years, and I've known this guy for years. And it's the Pritch.
I'm young.
And the
Very
Pritch
young.
and I are trying to bring a little joy and happiness and hope through our mutual friendship, and also through the people that have come to each one of us with different stories, different problems, different challenges, and we'd like to share some of those with you in case you find yourself in some kind of predicament.
Exactly.
So I thought I'd begin, Pritch, by telling you the story about this kind of low-down ghetto neighborhood, and a very wealthy man was driving his car, his, let's say a Jaguar. That's a nice car, isn't it?
Very nice car.
Jaguar.
Jaguar.
He's driving his Jaguar through this neighborhood
Yeah.
at a pretty good speed, and all of a sudden he hears a noise in the back of the car like a brick thrown at the car. So he puts on the brakes and he's all heated up. He gets out, looks around, looks closer, and he sees this old man in a wheelchair, and the wheelchair is tipped over. So he's laying on his side, and his son, a little boy, who had been pushing him along the sidewalk, hit a crack or something, and the wheelchair went over. So the little boy was trying to get somebody to help him put the thing up. So he grabbed this brick or this stone, and when the car was, a little rundown,
Right.
he threw it at the car. So he was crying. So the man got out of the car and saw what was happening, went over, helped the guy in the wheelchair get out, and said, "Can I do anything else for you?" And the little boy pushed his dad or the old man away. So the moral of the story is, don't go through life so fast that someone has to throw a brick at you to get your attention.
Yeah.
To get your attention. And I use this story once in a while because at a funeral or a memorial service for someone's passed away, death gives us all a little bit more focus on our own lives.
Right.
And all of us, it's about 100% we're not going to make it.
That's
So
very accurate.
because of that, but some people are afraid to face that fact. I see them a lot of times, and not so much older people, but younger people who just have this thing that they're going to live forever. Yeah, nothing's ever going to happen to me.
Got it.
So, but going through life so fast, like the man in the Jaguar, and someone has to throw a brick at him to get his attention.
Wow. Very powerful analogy, and I think that when we do pump the brakes and we slow down, there's actually, I don't know if you know this, Harry, there's an interesting term in forensics, and it is when people are in shooting incidences or car accidents or work in lethal situations, there's a term called, folks, tachypsychia, which means time in the mind. And it means sometimes in critical incidences and shootings and car accidents or plane crashes, time simultaneously slows down. And it feels like you're in slow motion. Anybody could have had this in a car accident. If you're spun out on an icy road and you see trucks coming at you and you're like, your time focus becomes, because it could be the end. And so to be consciously aware in your life, have consciousness that timing is important to us, and so that we are aware and conscious of being responsible to people for compassionate, caring relationships, that you notice if somebody is in jeopardy in a fire and you start to run over, and I've had this, and I've told people this story about a young firefighter who was a Marine Corps guy who was served in Iraq, and he said, I was in charge of the jaws of life, and he goes, I never had above a C. but he said, my whole time in high school, I wasn't that smart kid, but I had an incredible heart.
Oh.
And I was filled with a love for humanity. And when I came back from the Marine Corps overseas in a couple of tours, and I had reached being a staff sergeant in the Marine Corps, I decided to become a firefighter and save lives. And there was a lady trapped inside a car, and there was fire coming out from underneath. And all the other firefighters backed away because I see the gas, but I got to start the jaws of life and get in there and get her out of there. And I'm talking to her, telling her jokes, calming her down. And he's, all my buddies, all the women and men I work with backed away because a spark could take both lives. And I'm willing to risk my life and give my life to be there. And I turned around and I saw them, and I saw their eyes for how they regarded me. And I knew I'd found a home in the Marine Corps first, but then in the firehouse.
So I'm not going to ask you to spell that word.
Tachycycline. Did I mention that I went to Southeast Missouri State?
Yeah, you did. You
University?
mentioned it. Yeah. Tacky, is it T-A-C or
Taca, T-A-C-H.
Okay.
E-Y-A.
Okay.
Psychia. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I believe it's Greek.
It could be, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not.
Psyche is definitely.
I'm not smart like those that went to college in North America.
That's right.
Rome.
Yeah.
Rome.
So
we are such idiots, aren't we? Okay, go ahead.
No, don't. What do you mean?
We aren't idiots. We're really smart in another way. A single thought in my brain would die of loneliness. But go ahead.
Well, as I said, death is meant to get our attention in many ways, and I love those words over at the Portsunkala, which is the little chapel in North Beach, next to St. Francis.
St. Francis of Assisi.
Yeah, it says there on the steps, St. Francis said this, Vi voglio tutti in paradiso. Vi voglio tutti in paradiso. He said, I want to see you all in paradise. So you can't use that too often because people say, "What? You know something I don't know?"
But it's such a great line. It's beautiful.
Well, the better line, if I could say it in Latin, "Tu eris mecum in paradiso." That's what Jesus said from the cross to only one person who was a thief, not a nice guy. He never said it to any of the saints or Peter and Paul and even Mary and none of those sacred scripture characters, but the guy who was a crook. Today, hodie, tu eris mecum, you will be with me in paradise. So,
I think doesn't every prisoner need to hear that, I think?
Yeah.
Right? You've been to San Quentin and said Mass?
Yeah, and not for a long time.
But it was Christmas time,
yeah,
wasn't it?
Christmas time.
And what did it mean to you that day?
And I get
You could feel it?
Oh, sure. The worst part is leaving the prison. It's Christmas Eve.
Right.
You go from everybody having a uniform, which says California Department of Corrections on it.
Yeah.
Different colors, and nobody's got a coat and tie on.
Yeah.
Or they're not there with their wives dressed up for Christmas Eve. And you get through the service, you get back in your car, you drive across the Golden Gate Bridge.
Wow.
And you think, now they're going back to a little room not much bigger than this table that you and I are talking to, and laying down and hopefully thinking about the Christmases that they had before and all of that. And by the same token, now I walk into St. Mary's Cathedral where there's an orchestra and a choir and 1,000 people, and they're singing, and they're going home to their families and opening presents. And having
that's a huge dichotomy, Harry.
Well, you just can't imagine. And then the next day, Christmas Day, you eat and you enjoy your family and you watch the kids with their toys, or you're sitting in this little, whatever the measurements of the cells are. Right. And so that's what, I think that got me more than anything. I was with Archbishop Niederauer one night, and we waited. We were supposed to get in the prison at 6 at San Quentin, and somebody had stolen a screwdriver, so they wouldn't let anybody in.
They're afraid.
Yeah, until the screwdriver is found. We waited probably an hour and a half, and then it was called off. Right. So we're driving home. We hadn't eaten anything, so we went to 3 different places in Marin, and I won't mention the names, but it's Christmas Eve. It's 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
They're all closed.
Everybody's gone home
to their family.
Open their presents. Yeah.
How do 2 old guys in black suits, where can you get a sandwich, Much less a pasta and a salad.
Anything, right? Yeah.
So there we were, feeling sorry for ourselves.
But here's the thing. There's a poem I always love saying to the guys there. 2 men stared out from prison bars. One saw mud, but one saw stars. And I think it's, if we build through spirituality that hope in them, that things can get better through spiritual well-being, through connecting to the compassion of Christ, the compassion of any religious, you can be Buddhist, Islamic, whatever religion you are, if you can find hope in the spirituality, that's the gift. That's the gift, to find that hope that you will be able to change your behaviors to get out and find a way to find home. I remember one day I was talking to a group about anger management there at the prison for the director of education. And one of the guys goes, there was a couple of guys in the parole thing, got into a fight. They got into a fight in the parole van. They revoked them and sent them back to the jail, and they lost their parole. And I said, your mom was at the gate with the blackberry pie and vanilla bean ice cream, and you don't even get there because you're fighting. Why did you have a fight with this guy? And he goes, he wouldn't give me the window seat. He goes, well, he needs a little more time to think things through. And then anger management, all the guys started, I was crying. I was like, what? Can you imagine the lack of perspective? You're on your way out.
Yeah.
Mom's there with the blackberry pie and the ice cream, and you're still, your ego.
He's living in the mud.
Your ego takes you to, I want the window seat.
Yeah.
And, he's maybe not ready for parole. What do you think, folks?
I've heard you do a lot of poems. That's the shortest one I ever.
You must have approved.
I was going,
oh, no, not a poem.
One looking at the mud and the other the stars behind bars.
Right. Well, when you think about the way little kids teach us, one of my favorite things is when you actually just listening to kids. The other day at Dominican, I was with nurses from the mental health group, and they were great. And their professor, Michaela, was just wonderful. Michaela George is a great professor there at Dominican. And we're talking about mental health and wellness and how we help people who are suffering. And I remember that one of the great gifts is being with you. And you and I were in the middle of nowhere in a field at Cherry Creek State Park. And the kid is coming over to us, and she had spinal bifida, and she wanted to talk to us at night. And you're looking at me because we're not getting any sleep, because we're out under the stars with hundreds of homeless kids from Covenant House.
Yeah. And
they all had their sleeping bags, and we're just, you get exhausted from the energy of teenagers. And she wanted to talk about the sad life she had in Boston. And yet we had seen her being carried in by all these football players from Boston College in her wheelchair. And it was her brother and his teammates. And that's when, just to be at Mass with the Holy Father.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, we were sitting up, we weren't sleeping yet, were we?
Right. I don't think
couldn't sleep.
'cause you couldn't sleep. The singing, they kept singing. The children, they're singing. You know, you and I seemed really happy about it, though.
Yeah. Well, the ground was so hard anyway.
Yeah.
With a sleeping bag, I was hoping I was as big as you. But I wasn't.
I had my own inflatable me.
Yeah, yeah. Which is getting back to one of the things that people notice when they go to a service where somebody's being remembered or they died or they read about it in a paper.
Right.
We have this faith-filled knowledge that comes as part of our training and what we believe in, that after this, you don't really have to be afraid,
Right.
because life is changed,
Right.
not ended,
Right.
which is one of the best expressions I've ever found in the Mass prayers. Life is changed, not ended.
Right.
But for a number of people, collect all those Mercedes you can, because this is it. Is that?
You know, that you become owned by your possessions.
Yeah. You don't own them, they own you.
They own you.
Yeah.
And you see it in the sinking of the Titanic. There were people still convinced that the things that they could put on the lifeboat were more important than some of the people on board. And they asked that their possessions, their jewels, their gowns, could have more room than the people who were going to go down with the ship. And they paid for that to happen. And the lack of...
Now wait a minute. Before they hit the berg,
Yep.
It was like an insurance.
No, this was after the berg had been hit. And the old line is you're rearranging the deck furniture on the Titanic.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
you're listening to the last tune from the orchestra and thinking that that's important, as the water's seeping up. These folks were, if you saw the movie, The Titanic, they were paying for extra room for their possessions.
I don't remember that.
Oh, yeah. But it was prevalent in those days. The wealthy wanted to make room for their possessions and not realizing, this was Ebenezer Scrooge's deal, and in Nicholas Nickleby the same. If you're cold and indifferent to the suffering around you, you don't think of that as important. If you hold your compassion back and you become so coldly indifferent, and that's what I always loved, that line by Elie Wiesel, who suffered through the concentration camps, that hate is not the enemy of love, yet it is more indifference. Indifference to the suffering of those around you. And that is, for sure, that is the enemy of love. Absolutely. Because if you don't care what happens to other people, eventually, this is what I was talking about, the studies out of cynicism. This morning in Russia, they announced that 4,000 people a day are dying of COVID. Nobody wants to get a vaccine. They don't believe in anything. They don't believe. This is what CBS News, CBSN, statistician from Russia, is announcing, that people aren't getting vaccinated because they don't trust and they don't believe in anything. And I kept saying that is evident that in order to keep mental health for all of us, we must believe in a faith system, a belief system, a moral turpitude of some sort. Because the Swedish and the Norwegians have discovered that if you are cynical to the point of severity, you open yourself to dementia. And it only makes sense because if you self-isolate and push people away, you self-isolate more. You self-isolate more, you isolate more. And then eventually you're just by yourself, not trusting anyone.
Why did you mention those two cultures? Because they live in the ice.
Well, that's the point.
Yeah.
They have come to the realization. They're doctors, they're people And that's why they're so much into restorative justice.
Yeah.
They want to teach forgiveness to the rest of the world in their prison systems, which I think is really urgently important for all of us to get. If you have folks who are suffering in any penal system, it's important for them to be encouraged to find redemption of some sort, internally or maybe with external.
I get a couple of letters a week from different prisons.
Right.
And
Because they see you on the
yeah,
TV
they see
Mass.
it at Mass, and we don't have priest chaplains in prisons anymore, except San Quentin does, but a lot of the one in Stockton, up in Vacaville, I get a lot of mail from them.
Right.
But I don't even remember the guy's name. It starts with an L, but he writes a 2-page letter about once a month, and he always talks about the gangs and how he's finally gotten out of that. He's been in prison for 26 years, and I think he's 40, something like that. He's up for parole.
More time in prison than out of prison.
Yeah, and he'll go along and say how they treated him this way, and he's trying his best to stay away from gangs, and he wants to keep a clean slate until he has his next parole board meeting. And all of a sudden he'll throw it, right along. He said, "And I killed that girl for no reason at all. Now that I can see
What I did.
I killed that girl for no reason at all." And I took my I kept the letter and I put a line through that. And it just meant a lot to me that here's a guy,
He's unburdening to a good priest.
yeah, but 26 years. And his writing is, he's not super educated or anything. But
he's emotionally brilliant.
And he still gets that
Right.
that one thing that he did wrong. He knows it's wrong.
Cost him everything.
Cost him all this time from being. And he talks about his mother a little bit. How she's been praying for him and
Right.
looking forward to his parole.
Harry, when I was in probation parole, I listened to a lot of confessions, and they're just unburdening. And I think it's a spiritual gift to be able to help a person unburden. And they see in you in the Mass on television that you are a good soul, and anybody wants to unburden in some way.
Yeah.
Right? So urgent and important, right? So all I can say is, that we live a life, and no matter what we don't have, the more we do have in our life is to be able to help a person look inside for the understanding that it takes to try and redeem themselves for their family.
Yeah.
Even if he just says to his mom, "I've gotten well from figuring out things about myself." That's, for me, over the years, I tell them just to tell yourself the truth and then to tell the rest of us the truth so you can get help for yourself. And I don't care whether it's a priest, a therapist, a rabbi, an imam, anybody that you can unburden to is important to you because you're doing yourself a favor.
Yeah.
And I know that you know that because of the work you've done.
So we're coming to an end of this
Sure.
segment of the Padre and the Pritch, and what do you got coming up?
Well, I think that we're gonna take a little break in some ways from this until we can reestablish what we're going through journeys. And I have when you're in family, there was this great line by Robert Frost. Home is that place you go where they have to let you in, and I love that line. And I think that if we remember that over the years, some of the great writers and poets teach us things, and the scriptures teach us things. So just for me, teaching kids to take time for literature, take time to read things that uplift and shift and gift you in your heart area and to that emotional compassion. And that's what I've been doing,
So, Mike,
working with the
what
kids.
about, are they reading when they're doing this?
No,
No?
you know, if you're reading literature, this stuff, I actually got to say, I love the library. It's with me all the time.
Yeah.
And if I Google something and look it up and I tell somebody, they look at me and they go, how do you even know that? I said, well, you could Google it.
Yeah.
And they go, well, it doesn't mean it's true. And I go, of course. Anything you read doesn't mean it's true. But what you can learn is to research it. Yeah. And so when I tell people, if you read stuff, because early in the morning after morning prayer, I get up and I research the day. What am I going to be doing? What am I going to be? And when I knew when we were going to be talking, I didn't know we were talking about this, but I like knowing about what's going on in Russia.
Yeah.
And the lack of belief in things, and the cost to people in Russia is presently on CBSN says 4,000 people a day are dying. That's huge amount of people. If you extrapolate that out mathematically, you're realizing probably 30,000 people a month are dying. And this is larger. This group of people is dying now. We've reached 750,000 in America who have passed away. And the impact of that grief on our culture is really important for us to understand. We need to address the loneliness. We need to do exactly what we're doing just by having our friendship and our love and our laughter. We pray together, we laugh together, we live together, we eat together, and we're with friends who we love and family who we love. That is what gets you through hard times, correct?
And they support what we're doing and help us.
Right.
So God bless you all. Have a wonderful time. We hope to see you back. And when next time, maybe I'll have my new book. And
We're going to sell that book.
God bless.
God bless you. Take care of yourselves.